Hello guys, so today we will be solving the question 2161 of Leetcode, which is partition array according to given pivot. The question is marked as medium, but it's quite easy and the explanation is also straightforward. So you will be given a pivot and you have to arrange the elements of num such that the element smaller than pivot should appear to the left, the first point, and every element equal to pivot appears in between the elements less than and greater than the pivot. So the question is straightforward, like if you will be given a pivot and you will be given the array and elements which are smaller than pivot, like here it is 9 5 3 9 5 and 3, that should appear before the pivot, and elements greater than pivot should appear after it, and in between there should be pivot. So the question is quite straightforward. So let's start coding it up and start submitting the solution. So initially we will take two arrays to keep a track of elements which are smaller than pivot and which are greater than pivot. So we'll start smaller array and the greater array. And also we will be keeping a count of how many times the pivot has came till now. So initially which is 0. So we'll be start iterating in nums, and we will be looking if the element which is currently we are standing at, if it is less than pivot, then it is definitely smaller. Else if the element is greater than pivot, then it is definitely greater element. And the third case could be if it is equal, then definitely it is the pivot. So this way we can keep a track of all the smaller, greater, and how many pivot elements are there. After this we will be returning an answer, so we will need a vector. Simply answer could be, and we will iterate in smaller, greater, and pivot times to insert our answer. So for so first we'll put all the smaller elements. After putting all the smaller elements, similarly we can do this for the greater ones. But before pushing the greater elements, we also need to push how many times the pivot has occurred. So we can keep is greater than 0, or simply this. What we will do, we will push back in answer our pivot, and we will reduce the pivot count. This step is really necessary because it will give a heap buffer overflow if not reduced. So we push the smaller elements, we push the pivot, we push the greater elements into the answer, keeping track of the initial positions of them. After this, we'll simply return our answer, and this should satisfy all the test cases. Let's compile it. Okay, so it's accepted, and let's submit the solution. Okay, so this was how the question was. And regarding the time and space complexity we have used, the time complexity here it's n, and for all these three also it's n, because smaller elements would be, because all these for loops together will iterate in the whole array of size n. So time complexity here is big of 2 into n. And what about the space complexity? Space complexity is around n here. Thank you. So if you like the content, please subscribe and like to my channel.